Hello everyone and welcome to Uz Report World News with me, Davron Jumaev. The Uzbek government last year spent $11.5 billion in providing loans and financial assistance to small businesses, President Shavkat Mirziyoyev said on April 8. Mirziyoyev added that more than 104,000 enterprises in Uzbekistan affected by the coronavirus pandemic have resumed operations, while the working capital of private enterprises has increased by 33% compared to last year. More on his meeting in the report of Marifat Abdusharipova.
Aholini bandligini ta'minlash bo'yicha eng katta masala shunga bog'liq ekanligini bizning tariximizda bo'lmagan.
The president harshly criticized regional and sector leaders who have failed to take full advantage of available economic opportunities. He said, "We are living in a difficult period. Every day we need to look for something new, strive, work for the final goal. We have to support entrepreneurs, create conditions for them. No matter how much money we allocate, how many decrees and resolutions we adopt, how many favorable conditions we create, everything will be in vain if the lower-level managers do not change their worldview, are not friends with the entrepreneur." Mirziyoyev also touched upon problems in infrastructure. He said that some 320 entrepreneurs have been unable to put to work around $220 million worth of equipment that they have imported over the past 2 years. Over 2,500 people stand to lose jobs due to insufficient electricity supply. He mentioned the government has allocated $192 million to solve utility and infrastructure shortcomings. By the end of this year, 168 industrial zones are to be provided with 468 kilometers of electricity networks, 362 kilometers of gas pipelines, 405 kilometers of water supply networks, and 104 kilometers of roads. The business ombudsman has been instructed to study the problems of entrepreneurs in infrastructure and make proposals to the Prime Minister to remedy them. Mirziyoyev also noted that nearly $100 million was allocated for the development of the service sector during the pandemic. This year, entrepreneurs are to be provided with at least $3.8 billion in loans to replenish working capital. Export enterprises are set to enjoy $100 million of revolving loans. A procedure is to be created for granting entrepreneurs who show good discipline in paying taxes on time the option of paying 50% of taxes in installments over 3 years.
Those leaders who hinder the development of entrepreneurship are traitors, Press Secretary Sherzod Asadov cited Mirziyoyev's words. Mirziyoyev also said it was necessary to hang photos of these traitors on TV so that people would know their heroes.
Those leaders who hinder the activities of entrepreneurs in Uzbekistan and the implementation of the reform agenda in general. President stressed that such people cannot be tolerated and the punishment will be inevitable. Specific tasks were set for the full support of entrepreneurs, employment and improving the well-being of citizens included in the Iron, Women's and Youth Notebooks. It is emphasized that the demand for their implementation will be the most stringent, so everyone needs to work with a sense of high responsibility and dedication.
Turkey and Uzbekistan aim to enhance bilateral trade volume to $5 billion. The Turkish Trade Minister Rukhsar Pakan said on Thursday. Meeting her Uzbek counterpart Sardor Umurzakov in Tashkent, she said the countries could achieve the target with a balanced trade based on a win-win approach. Umurzakov, for his part, welcomed Pakan's visit and said that two sides will find solutions to the existing problems and improve their relations. The trade volume between both countries is currently around $2 billion. Uzbekistan's budget for the execution of country framework is set to comprise $17 million. Details of the program between FAO and Uzbekistan for 2021-2025 was presented on Thursday.
The sides intend to strengthen alliance in the field of food and agriculture to transform the production, storage, processing, distribution, consumption and disposal of food products produced by agriculture, forestry and fisheries.
The main strategic direction in this country framework is the development of inclusive agriculture in Uzbekistan, as well as ensuring food safety. Moreover, it is planned to enforce projects for the RLC.
The FAO Sub-Regional Coordinator for Central Asia, VRL Gutu, noted that in line with the national priorities of the SDGs, FAO's activities under this program will support the government's efforts to implement the Sustainable Development Agenda and ensure the achievement of sustainable food systems throughout the agri-food value chain. Uzbekistan joined FAO in 2001, and FAO office in Uzbekistan was founded in 2014.
The first international industrial exhibition InnoProm held in Tashkent saw the signing of 21 agreements worth $128 million. Uzbek and Russian entrepreneurs have initiated 33 projects in the amount of $2.2 billion.
More than 1,000 Uzbek and over 300 Russian companies attended the three-day exhibition. The Uzbek-Russian economic partnership can be much larger and develop on the basis of complementarity and effective cooperation. We offer a reliable system of state support for industrial development, which provides a number of benefits and advantages, including the issuance of soft loans, said Deputy Prime Minister of Uzbekistan, Minister of Investments and Foreign Trade, Sardar Umuzakov. Tashkent as a venue was not chosen by chance. Uzbekistan is step-by-step expanding opportunities for cooperation with partner countries, noted the Minister of Industry and Trade of Russia, Denis Manturov. For our part, we fully support the desire for greater openness and are building up cooperation with Uzbek partners. Today, Uzbekistan is an obvious Central Asian tiger. We are confident in its successful development. Russian investors have an appetite for risk in Uzbekistan. They want to be here. In 2020, Sovcombank has already issued loans to banks and companies of Uzbekistan for $500 million. We plan to bring the volume of loans to $1 billion by the end of the year, said Dmitry Gusev, chairman of the board of Sovcombank.
Uzbekistan has prohibited the adaptation of cultural heritages for modern use without permit. The ban is introduced in order to preserve the unique peculiarities and historical color of these objects, and no changes are allowed.
The government is expected to form an electronic register where the data of all sports and cultural heritage sites will be posted. It also plans to introduce a new fencing system along the zones of protection, indicating the sources of funding. The identification of real estate objects of historical, scientific, artistic or special cultural value was instructed to be fully developed by January 1st, 2022. In the organizational and staff structure of the General Prosecutor's Office, a department is to be created to monitor the implementation of legislation in this area.
Uzbekistan intends to expand the cinema network. According to the presidential decree, new movie theaters would get the opportunity to screen national films produced based on state order for free during the first 3 months of operation. Entrepreneurs would receive 25 acres of land at no cost for the construction of shopping and entertainment complexes equipped with at least 250 seats and 3 cinemas.
Until the 1st of June, each district center is to receive 1 land plot for the establishment of such shopping malls. It is planned that 2 land plots are to be allocated in urban centers. Also, starting from July the 1st, new shopping and entertainment centers with a retail space of more than 15,000 square meters would be obliged to equip cinemas with at least 300 seats and 4 walls. Besides, until January the 1st, 2024, the DCP-equipped cinemas would be covered 50% of the expenses associated with the purchase of devices, with the unit cost of not more than 50 million Uzbek sums, or some $4.7 thousand from the state budget. Republican TV channels would annually receive subsidies from the Agency of Cinematography in the amount of at least 12 billion sums, or some $1.14 million to support and develop the production of national series.
Australia and the Philippines limited the use of AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine on Thursday, while the African Union dropped plans to buy the shot, dealing another blow to the company's hopes to deliver a vaccine for the world. The shot, which is developed with Oxford University and considered a frontrunner in the global vaccine race, has been plagued by safety concerns and supply problems since Phase 3 trial results were published in December, with Indonesia the latest country forced to seek doses from other developers. The Philippines suspended the use of AstraZeneca shots for people below 60 after Europe's regulator said on Wednesday it found rare cases of blood clots among some adult recipients, although the vaccine's advantages still outweighed its risks. Australia recommended those under 50 get Pfizer's candidate in preference to AstraZeneca's, a policy shift that it warned would hold up its inoculation campaign. The African Union says it is now exploring options with Johnson & Johnson, having dropped plans to buy AstraZeneca's vaccine from India's Serum Institute. AstraZeneca's vaccine is by far the cheapest and most high-volume launched so far, and has none of the extreme refrigeration requirements of some other COVID-19 vaccines, making it likely to be the mainstay of many vaccination programs in the developing world. but more than a dozen countries have at one time suspended or partially suspended use of the shot, first on concerns about efficacy in older people, and now on worries about rare side effects in younger people. That, coupled with production setbacks, will delay the rollout of vaccines across the globe as governments scramble to find alternatives.
The latest U.S. mass shooting gripped the town of Bryan, Texas on Thursday, when a gunman opened fire at his workplace, Kent Moore Cabinets, some 100 miles northwest of Houston. He killed one and wounded 6 others before being taken into custody. 4 of those injured are in critical condition, according to a tweet from local law enforcement. Bryan Police Chief Eric Buski said they did not identify the suspect or a possible motive, but confirmed that he worked at the cabinet-making business.
We're processing the crime scene to preserve all the evidence that we need to preserve. We're also working on notifying next of kin, and we're still interviewing any witnesses that have not been interviewed yet.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott said that a state trooper was among those hurt in the shooting and said the state would assist in prosecuting the gunman. The violent outburst is the latest in a string of deadly mass shootings across the U.S. since mid-March. 8 were slain at Atlanta area spas, 10 at a supermarket in Colorado, and 4 at a business complex in California, including a 9-year-old boy. Hours before the Texas shooting, U.S. President Joe Biden's administration proposed limited measures to tackle gun violence.
The head of a top Chinese battery maker thinks Beijing's green push and manufacturing power could make electric cars just as competitive as fossil fuel cars within a decade. Octillion Power Systems makes custom batteries for car makers, and like others, it's hoping to cash in on the rise of electric cars in China. Its CEO, Peng Zhao, says tough emission rules, better electric cars, and a nationwide push to cut greenhouse gases are driving a boom.
So it is exciting time. It fundamentally changed the dynamics from a subsidy-driven market to a consumer-driven market.
China is the world's biggest emitter of greenhouse gases, but it has set an ambitious goal to go carbon neutral by 2060. New Tesla owner, Shanghai resident Jin Shang, is convinced the country is making the right switch.
Of course, I believe electric vehicles are the future. Governments are supporting them and many automobile enterprises are developing their own.
However, environmental groups have pointed out a big downside, a surge in battery waste of this growing industry. Zheng Mingyan is a campaigner for Greenpeace, and he points out that making an electric vehicle generates more emissions than traditional cars.
If we want electric vehicles to truly live up to their name and provide a boost to carbon neutrality, we need the government, the whole sector, companies, and all sides to work towards achieving sustainability of the resources.
Zheng also points out concerns over where the electricity comes from. He says that in China's case, around 2/3 of electricity comes from the burning of coal. Chinese cities have responded to the waste question by setting up recycling schemes. But Zhao, the battery CEO, shrugs off any pollution nightmare. He believes scarce resources like nickel and cobalt in the batteries mean people will try to make money by reclaiming them rather than dumping them. While the country pushes for new energy sources, in a recent energy report, China has also said it will still promote coal, but under the label of clean and efficient.
The S&P 500 set a record closing high for the 3rd time this week. As interest rates further cooled off on Thursday, the Dow waffled throughout the session, but finally ended 57 points higher. The S&P 500 tacked on 17 points. The Nasdaq outperformed by far in a 140-point surge. Large cap tech names are in favor once again, as Art Hogan, Chief Market Strategist, National Securities, points out.
So I think we threw all of technology out, like the baby with the bathwater in the first quarter, and that rotation. And as interest rates started inching up, and then we realized, wait a second, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Apple, Amazon all have earnings in the here and now and actually can be measured on a multiple of price to earnings. So I think that has gotten investors back into those names necessarily.
Investors had to overlook a surprise rise in unemployment claims for the second week in a row. New applications for jobless benefits rose to 744,000. That's in contrast to other economic data suggesting the economic rebound is firmly in place. As of late March, 18.2 million Americans received some sort of government unemployment assistance. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell highlighted this as a key concern during an International Monetary Fund panel.
So it's important to remember we're not going back to the same economy. This will be a different economy. And one of the things we hear from companies is that they've spent a lot of time looking at ways to have more effective technology and perhaps fewer people. So you're going to see some of that in these public-facing jobs. So there will be millions of people who have a hard time finding their way back into the workforce and recovering the lives that they had just a year ago. And, I think it would be appropriate for us to continue to support those people.
GameStop, back in the news. The company says it will tap activist investor Ryan Cohen as chairman of the board. The co-founder of online pet care retailer Chewy is said to be the mastermind behind a plan to transform GameStop into an e-commerce retailer. Shares of GameStop down 4%.
Netflix and Sony Pictures inked a deal on Thursday to offer new Spider-Man movies and other Sony films to U.S. customers after they play in theaters. The 5-year arrangement will begin with the 2022 slate of movies, which is scheduled to include Sony's superhero flick, Morbius.
I feel like more alive than ever.
Future releases are also expected to include new installments in the Spider-Man and Jumanji franchises. The movies will hit Netflix after they have finished their run in theaters and been made available for home viewing on demand. That period typically extends for months, though studios have been experimenting with offering films in homes sooner during the health crisis. Under the new deal, Netflix will also stream some older films from Sony's library and will have first dibs on movies that Sony makes directly for streaming. The world's largest streaming service is looking to bolster its movie offerings as it faces growing competition from Disney, HBO Max, and others.
The South Korean tanker ship and its captain that were detained by Iran in January have now been freed, after South Korea promised to try and release Iranian funds that have been frozen in South Korean banks because of U.S. sanctions. That's according to a South Korean government source. The tanker was seized in the Strait of Hormuz off Oman by Iranian authorities, who had accused it of polluting the waters with chemicals. A diplomatic emergency arose when, separately, Tehran was demanding that Seoul release $7 billion in frozen funds. 20 crew members except the captain were released in February after a South Korean delegation visited Iran. Both South Korean Foreign Ministry's statement and Iranian state news agencies' report on the ship did not mention the demand for the release of funds. The news also comes as Iran and United States have begun informal talks this week over salvaging the 2015 nuclear deal. Iran has denied allegations that the seizure of the tanker and its crew constituted hostage-taking, saying it was South Korea that was holding Iranian funds hostage.
These were the top headlines for today. Stay safe and goodbye.